What's up, guys? So today we are going to be continuing our lecture in PHP. The next thing we'll be looking at is functions. In the last class we talked about loops, where we talked about the while loop, the do while loop, and the for each loop, and for loop, then the break keyword and the continue keyword. Now we're going to be looking into PHP functions. We're going to be looking into PHP functions here. So basically what a function is a way to run a particular block of code in your project or program. So a block of code is simply like a set of steps that you're defining. Whenever you call that function, the function performs all those tasks in a bunch. So it's a very important style of programming, using of functions. It has the advantage of modularizing our apps, making it reusable among different projects. A function you create can be used in different projects you create all over. So you cannot stress the importance of functions enough, as we'll see in our coming classes. So this is a simple syntax of the function. Here you write the function keyword, give the function a name, usually what the function will perform, and then the code in between the curly braces. Now let's take a simple example, printing a message, a hello world message. We'll take this and examine what everything is. First, let us create a file in our project folder. We'll call this functions.php. A simple HTML page. Our function here. Alright, what is here? Now you see the function keyword is defined with the name of the function, which is write MSG, which is short for message, and here we are echoing out hello world. Remember, print and echo do the same work. They print text to the front end. They print output to the browser. Now what this does is a function call. Whenever you call the function, you're essentially saying it is time to run whatever is in the block of this code. Now this is helpful because you can call a function as many times as you want in different parts of your project, and it will run exactly the same steps of code, instead of you rewriting that code on and on and on in different parts of your project when you need it. Now let us run this example and you see how that goes. Alright. Remember to have your XAMPP loaded up. So go to localhost, localhost /project/functions.php. See our text here printed out hello world. If we go back to here, the code, let us try and call this function more times. Call it here 3 times. And we see, refresh, we have hello world, hello world, hello world. Very, very handy. Now let us add some spacing to this, and let's see how the function can help. So normally we would repeat this code. Normally we would repeat the, let's see, how do we echo or print, then we echo out the HTML tag BR, meaning break line, meaning break, close. Take same and echo. Now if we refresh, you see that it spaces them. Now there is a repetition here, and this is just a basic example of what causes functions to be written. So you would essentially want this block of code inside your function, and you only have to call it once, and you won't need to call this anymore. And now let us run our example, and you see that it is still formatted even after refreshing. Alright, let's take another simple example. This one, let's try some calculations. Call this example. Next example is simple. Now let's add 4 different functions: the multiplication, addition, and subtraction. So you can try and write this out yourself, but let's take the first one together. You have a simple function here. Function addition. Now we say x, we declare a variable here, x equals to 10. And y equals to 12. Now we're going to echo out x plus y. Let us call our function here. We call it writing addition. see 22 here. You see that it's actually calling this function. Okay, for you to see that you need to call the function for it to be executed, you comment out the addition and refresh. Nothing happens here because you are not calling this function, so it cannot go. Now let's go back to this. The addition of 10 and 12, 22, it worked perfectly. Now, but what if we actually want to pass in our own values into our own program? What do? We use something called parameters. Now, parameters of a function are simply the input you want that function to have. Basically, we are saying you don't always want to be setting values here by default. You want the values to come in from outside. So how you do that is inside these brackets, these parentheses here, you add your parameters into there. Now we have the multiplication function. Let us do that. Function multiplication. Now we define parameters. So let us say we want two numbers to be imputed for multiplication. So we have this here, number 1, comma, number 2. So we should be expecting only integer values here. Now in our function, what do? We use these values directly and say let us equal this and say let us equal a string of the result, saying multiplication of number 1 and number 2 is. Now we can add our multiplication here. This is a string. Now let us do some concatenation. What concatenation simply means is adding extra text, adding to a text, but not within the same quotation marks. So in PHP we concatenate using the dots. And here we can run our multiplication, saying number 1 times number 2. Refresh. Don't forget to call our function multiplication. Then inside our brackets, we are going to give in the values that we want, because this function requires 2 parameters. We will provide it with 2 parameters and we call them 20 and 5. Close. Our function has been called. Just let us disable this example. Refresh. Multiplication of 20 and 5 is 100. Simple and concise. The function is very helpful. We can call this as many times as we want with different values and it will print them. Now let us give a space. The function returns a space, a line break. Now you can call this as many times as possible, say 200, 50, 30 to 2, 77, 6. Now we refresh and see everything we created. Every input we passed in came in and did the multiplication function. That is a simple example for using parameters. Now let's talk about the return statements. So you will not always want to be printing out the results directly from the function. You might want to return a value, return the value back and place it into a variable and use it. So functions also can help with that. They can return the value without actually printing to the screen for you to use that value and do with it whatever you want. Now let us run that in the division example. So we are going to use the parameters too. So we have functions, division number 1 and number 2. We see here we want to return. So let us actually create a result here. Result variable equals to num1 divided by num2. The dash sign here, this dash sign here is used in division. So where we have return statements, like return results. What this means is the division will be performed here, then the result will be stored inside the result variable that we created, and the result is returned back to the user, and the user can do, or the developer can do whatever he wants with the value. So in our case, you do not just call this function this way, division call adding two numbers. Let us see an example about just calling. Now if we run refresh, you see that no value is returned, but we actually put in a return value here. The return does not echo out anything or does not print out anything. It will be a different fact if we actually change this to echo. And we run this, you see the value. But in return, what would you do? You can either echo this function directly. Notice that we added the echo here. Refresh, it is still the same. Or we can store the value inside a variable. Let's call this return results equal to that. So we can now echo return results. Sorry. refresh, we still have our 4. Just so you know, let us remove this echo value and see that nothing actually comes up. When we uncomment this and refresh, you see this is actually returning the value of this division. That's great, guys. You can simply run the division test, the example for subtraction here, using the return statement with 2 numbers being expected in the function. You can pause the video here just to try it out, and after that we can work on it together. Well, so I hope you tried out that little task. So let us work on this together now. We have our function, name it subtraction, taking in 2 parameters, and in that parameter we are going to have the result of num1. Sorry, we have to equate it here. num1 minus num2, and we are going to return the value here. Return result. And now we can put in our returned results and echo the results here. Subtraction of 20 and 5. Comment out this previous example and we run refresh. 20 minus 5 is equal to 15. Correct. Now remember I said return values can actually be used to do other things. So let us take these 2 functions here. Instead of echoing it out, we're going to actually use the values to do another function. We have, okay, let us use the multiplication function for this. We're going to uncomment the multiplication function. So we have here return results. Let us rename our variables to fit the description. So we have division, return results, and subtraction, return results. It is good to make your variables as descriptive as possible so that whoever is reading your code can understand what each variable do. And we have here, we can call the multiplication function that is above here. You can call it. You can see the multiplication function here. Now, if we say multiplication, then inside the brackets we pass in the 2 values here. Division, return results, and subtraction, return results. Here. Notice that we don't have return here. It is just this function prints out this string and does the multiplication at the same time, then prints out a line. Guess what the output of this will look like. Now let us say the result here was 4 and the result here was 15. So we are going to be passing in a value of 4 and 15. Let us refresh. Multiplication of 4 and 15 is 60. So there we have it. This is the power of functions. Alright, we can move to the next example. Sorry, the next class. I'm sure we remember arrays because we've used it in past examples. Let us simply run through an array, what it is. You can see an array is a special variable which can hold more than one value at a time. If you have a list of items, a list of car names, for example, storing the cars in a simple variable would look like this. So car 1, car 2, car 3, we have to define them, creating a variable for each of them, which is a little bit redundant when we have what we call an array to help bunch them up into one particular variable, and then we can call them individually. So in PHP, the array function is used to create an array. There are 3 different types of arrays: index arrays with numeric indexes, associative arrays with named keys, and multi-dimensional arrays containing one or more arrays. In a multi-dimensional arrays, you can have arrays within arrays. Let us take our first and simple example. The first creation of arrays. Let's create a new file called arrays. We'll run through this quickly because we've done this before. We've used arrays before. HTML. But by now you know that HTML can actually run on PHP files. It's just a simple thing to it. You don't actually need to define this for PHP to work, to show on our browser, but just good practice just to know that PHP can work in HTML style files, as HTML can work in PHP files. So we have PHP close PHP. We declare a simple cars array, and the cars contain an array of BMW, each of them. We have, for this example, this is called the normal array, which is called indexed arrays. These are the normal ones. They are indexed arrays because, let me show you, I know I've shown this before, but let's just do like print_r. That print function is used for arrays, printing out values of arrays only. And r save. see they are indexed because of they use numbers 0, 1, 2. Next example is the associative arrays. Okay, let's print out the single value of this. Use the indexes to print out values. Call it cars, square brackets, then the index you want 0. We're going to be printing out the array value with index 0. If we refresh here, we'll see BMW. We change to 1. See Volvo. You might wonder what happens if you put an index that doesn't exist. Put in 23, it will crash. Undefined array key index. 2 to bring the Honda. Great, good. Let's move on to the next type of arrays, named arrays. They call it associative arrays. Just basically arrays with named keys. See here, Gabriel, and then the value of Gabriel, Gabriel's age is 12. Try Victor. Pascal's age is 70 years old. I refresh, we save. How do we work with associative arrays? We call associative arrays, we get value from associative arrays by using their key names. So in our case, the key name here is Gabriel for 12, Victor for 32, Pascal for 70. So let us echo ages, then in the square brackets, we put in the value we want, Gabriel. This is great that we notified that we got this error, because the simple cause of the error is that it is not the same actually because of the capital G here and the small g here. So you can be mindful of that. Let us change that to exactly it. Refresh and we'll see we have our value 12. Echo Victor 2. Echo actually paste this. So very handy examples. And then there's a multi-dimensional array, basically an array inside an array. Let's take some simple functions, array functions, helpful array functions, like the count function. The count function helps you print out the number of values inside an array. Count, not cars now. What is the count of inches? Actually comment these equals. Refresh here. You have 3, 1, 2, and 3 values inside our array. So the count function is variable. It's helpful in many ways. We won't be talking about the multi-dimensional array for now, because we won't need it just yet. Alright, that will be all for this class. That will be all for this class. Now next class we can go on to simple form handling, PHP forms, actually inputting values like username and password, trying to validate it, sending it, using the values in another file, using the values to perform operations in a different PHP file from the one where the value was